Now, in this chapter, we are diving into the Azure Virtual Machine scale sets. By the end of this video, you will have a solid understanding of how to scale your Azure infrastructure efficiently and automatically. Let's jump right into it. Earlier, we discussed the concept of increasing the availability of your application by deploying multiple virtual machines as part of your infrastructure. The idea is simple. Install your application on all these virtual machines and distribute the traffic between them. When you have multiple machines in place, you can handle more users by spreading the loads across these machines. If you are expecting a surge in traffic, just add more machines. Now let's break this down further. So, we will talk about distributing user traffic, which we will dive deeper into later on. Today, we are focusing on the scalability of your infrastructure. Let's be real, user traffic is not always constant. For example, during the day, your website might receive a heavy traffic, but maybe at night or off-peak times, the traffic drops. Or let's say, you run an e-commerce website during a sale, the traffic spike and you need more resources to handle the demand. After the sale, you might not need that many machines and the traffic decrease again. Manually adding and removing virtual machine might seem like a quick solution, but that's not the most efficient way to go about it. You would have to continuously monitor the traffic and manually scale up or down based on what's happening. This requires a lot of work and is not idle in today's fast-paced world. So, what's the solution? Enter the Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets. This service allows you to automatically scale your infrastructure based on demand, making things much easier for you. With Scale Set, you can create and manage group of load balance virtual machines. These machines can grow or shrink depending on demand based on schedule you set. Imagine an application that requires 4 machines during the day and only 2 machines at a night. Every day, you would need to spin up those extra 2 machines during the day and then scale down at night. But manually adjusting for this would be too time consuming. Here is where Azure Virtual Machine Scale Set come in. They can automatically scale your virtual machines based on the real-time conditions or a predefined schedule. With Azure Virtual Machine Scale Set, you don't need to worry about manually monitoring and adjusting the number of machines. You can create scaling rules to automatically manage these. For instance, you can set conditions like add more machines when the traffic goes about certain threshold. And second one is remove machines when the traffic drops below a set limits. This rule ensures your infrastructure always has the right number of machines based on the traffic demand. Now, in the next chapter, we are going to take a deeper look at how to create a virtual machine scale set and implement this scaling rule. This will give you a hands-on experience with how Azure can help you manage your infrastructure more efficiently. In today's video, I am going to walk you through the process of creating a virtual machine scale set in Microsoft Azure. This is a key part of Azure's cloud computing infrastructure, allowing you to deploy and manage a group of identical load balanced virtual machines. So let's dive right in. First, let's navigate to the Azure Marketplace. Once you are logged into the Azure portal, go to the search bar at the top of the screen. In the search bar, type scale set. So I will type scale set. And you will notice that the virtual machine scale set option will appear in the search results. So click on it to open the page. Now, you will see the virtual machine scale set option. So as you can see over here, so click on the create and click to the virtual machine scale set. This process will open a wizard that's similar to the Azure Virtual Machine creation page, but with some key differences as we are setting up a scale set instead. As the wizard opens, we will start filling out the required information to create our scale set. First, we need to select our resource group, and I will select the resource group as a demo. Then our next step is to virtual machine scale set name. So I will enter the name app VM. Now let's set the region. For this example, I will use the North Europe, which is the default region for me. Next, we need to choose the availability zone. In this case, we will leave it set to the none. But you can select a specific availability zone if you need high availability across the different regions. Now, in the orchestration section, you will see two options. First one is flexible and second one is uniform. Let me explain this quickly. With flexible, you can have a different types of virtual machines in the same scale set, allowing you to create a more diverse environment. On the other hand, uniform ensures that all virtual machines in the scale set are identical. For this demo, I am going to select the uniform option. Now scroll down to the scaling section. Here, we can set how the scale set should scale. So, select the scaling mode as default, which is manually. In the instance count field, type 1, as we are starting with one instance for this demonstration. Next, we will choose the operating system and I am going to select Ubuntu server for this available option. Now for the size, we will stick with the default, which is B1S machine size, which is a small and cost-effective option. Now let's create an administrator account. Select the password option. Then enter the username and password of your choice. So I will enter my username and password as Linux admin. Now I will enter the password. Again I will enter the confirm password. Be sure to keep this credential in a safe place, as you will need them to access the virtual machine later on. Let's move to our spot section, and here it is. We can leave default and click to the disk. Now as you can see over here, the default disk size is 13 GB and the OS disk type is premium SSD. Now we can leave the default and click to the networking. In the networking section, here you will see that the virtual machine network and subnet are already created by default. As you can see over here, you can leave these settings as default. Now we need to configure the inbound port rule. So click to the edit button and scroll down and select the public inbound port rule to allow selected ports, and I will select the SSH so we can connect to the virtual machines via SSH. Now also make sure to enable the public IP address option. By default it is disabled, so we will turn it on, and after enabling the public IP address, click to the OK. Now let's move to the final step. So we will click to the review plus create button, and it will take some time for our configuration validation. So wait for it for successfully validating. Azure will validate all the configuration you have entered. Once the validation is complete, click to the create. As you can see here, our validation is complete. So I will click to the create button. Now the deployment process will start. This may take a few minutes. Once it's successfully deployed, and our instance is start deploying into our Azure portal. So wait for it for successfully deployment. Now once it's successfully deployed, click to the go to resource button to move to the virtual machine overview page. Now here we are. Now head over to the all resources page and navigate to the left hand menu and click to the all resources. And in the all resources, you should see the virtual network, the virtual machine scale set, and the network security group listed. As you can see over here, the virtual machine scale set, network security group, and virtual network. Now click on the virtual machine scale set. I will click on that, and as you can see on the left hand side, you will see the instances option. So click on it, and you will see the instance we just created. It's essentially a virtual machine, but it's controlled by the scale set itself. If I click on it, I can connect to it via SSH, as you can see over here, and here is our public IP address, and that's it. You have successfully created a virtual machine scale set in Azure. In the next video, we will cover how to scale the instances in the scale set based on your needs. In the previous chapter, we provisioned a virtual machine scale set, which is a powerful feature in Azure for managing and scaling multiple virtual machines. Today we are going to dive deeper into how to configure auto scaling based on specific conditions and metrics. So, if you are ready to learn how to scale your infrastructure dynamically based on the demand, let's get started. In this chapter, we are focusing on the entire scaling process. Currently, we have a single virtual machine running as a part of the scale set. I have already logged into that machine, but our goal today is to change the scaling configuration. The key point of our scale set is to allow your infrastructure to scale automatically based on demand. So, instead of manually adding more machines, we are going to set up auto scaling rule. So, in the left hand side, scroll down and in the availability plus scaling option, open the scaling option. The key point of scale set is to allow your infrastructure to scale automatically based on demand. So instead of manually adding more machines, as you can see over here, it is a manually adding instance. Now, instead of manually adding more machines, we are going to set up an auto scaling rule. So we click on the custom auto scale, then scroll down and adjust the number of machines based on your certain conditions. As you can see over here, the configurations, and you will see the option over here, scale based on metrics and a scale to specific instance count. I will click on the scale based on metrics. Now I will show you how to set up auto scaling based on CPU utilization, which is a common metric for scaling. Then I will scroll down. Now in the scaling section, we will change from a static number of instances to a custom auto scale configuration. Here we can define the minimum, maximum and default number of instances. As you can see over here, the minimum, maximum and default. For example, I will set the maximum number of instances for 3. For now, we add a rule. This rule specifies that if the CPU utilization exceeds a threshold, it means if our CPU utilization over the 70% for a sustained period, for the example 10 minutes, we should automatically add another instance. As you can see over here, the configuration of our instance. The scale set continuously monitors the CPU utilization of all the virtual machines in the set, and when it detects that the load is too high, it will trigger the scaling action. Now I will click to the add button. Now after adding a machine, the system needs a cooldown period before scaling up again. This allows the new machine to handle the traffic. The overall CPU usage across the scale set will come down before triggering for the scaling action. After setting the rule, click to the save. And this configures the scale set automatically add more machines if the CPU usage exceeds 70%. Now our resource is successfully updated and our rule is successfully saved. In some cases, you encounter an error, so it will say that the subscription is not registered to us. The subscription is not registered to use the Microsoft Insight namespace. This is important for monitoring purposes, but it's preventing the scaling configuration for being saved. Let's walk through the how to resolve this. In the Azure portal, navigate to your subscription and click to the subscription into new tab and wait for it for successfully load, and click the subscription, which is a pay as you go. Scroll down and open the resource providers. Then search Microsoft Insights and select the insights and click to the registered. So if this resource type is not registered, we can simply click to the register to add it our subscriptions. Don't worry, there is no additional cost involved with these actions. In my case, it is a pre-registered, so I don't need to register again because our rule is successfully saved. Once we have registered the provider, we need to refresh the page to ensure everything is updated. Now let's go back to scale set settings. After saving the rule, you will need to refresh the page. After successfully saving the configuration, let's check if the scaling process is working. But since your virtual machine CPU usage is low right now, we need to simulate some load. Here is how we can do it. I will connect to the virtual Linux machine via SSH using its public IP address. So let's move to our instances and open the instance. Now our instance overview page is open. So I will click to the public IP address and copy the public IP address and open a CMD and then type SSH and then username which is we created earlier, which is Linux admin @ your public IP address of your virtual machine. Then hit enter and type yes for confirmation and enter your virtual machine's administrative password. So I will enter the password and hit enter. Now we are successfully connected to our virtual machine. So I will update the package index and install the tool. So first of all, we need to update the package by typing sudo apt update and hit enter. Now it will start updating our package in our Ubuntu virtual machine. So wait for it for successfully update. Now after successfully updating our package, we need to install a tool called stress. This tool is used to put article stress on the machine CPU, which will increase the CPU utilizations. So I will enter the command sudo apt install stress and hit enter. Now it will start installing into our virtual machine. So wait for it for successfully install. Now our tool is successfully installed into our machine. After installing stress, I will run it to generate CPU loads. This will artificially increase the CPU usage on the machine and trigger the scaling rule. So I will type the command stress -CPU 1000 and hit enter. Now we have included a load on a virtual machine. Let's give it some time to ensure that the scaling rule trigger correctly. Let's minimize. Now as you can see over here, the usage will be start. And let's move to our instance page. Click to the instances and wait for some time for automatic upscaling our new virtual instance. Let's go to the monitoring section of the scale set and check the CPU utilization graph. Now that we have included a load on the virtual machine, let's give it some time to ensure that the scaling rule triggered correctly. Let's go to our monitoring section of the scale set. Let's go to our all resources and click to the overview and move to our monitoring section and check the CPU utilization graph. You should see that the CPU usage has gone above 70%. As you can see over here, due to the stress tool running on the virtual machine. Remember, the scaling rule we configure is set to the scale the number of instances if CPU usage remain over the 70% for 10 minutes. So wait for it for 10 minutes. Now after a while, let's go to our overview page and click to the instances and let's refresh this page. Now as you can see over here, the second virtual machine is created for the balancing of CPU utilizations, and you should see that the another instance has been added automatically. This confirms that the scaling rules has triggered and the infrastructure scaled to meet the demand. So here is the key takeaways. First one is horizontal scaling. Virtual machine scale sets allow you to scale your infrastructure horizontally, adding or removing virtual machines based on the demand. Auto-scaling rules. You can define rules based on metrics such as CPU utilization, memory usage, or custom metrics to scale your resources dynamically. Then third one is cooldown period. It's important to have a cooldown period to prevent adding to many instances too quickly, which could lead to inefficiencies. Now, before we end, a quick note. If your scale set is running applications, remember that the scale set does not automatically deploy your application to newly created instances. You will need to manage application deployment using custom scripts or other tools. Now that you have seen how to auto scaling works, you should be ready to configure your own scale sets in Azure. Whether you are handling high traffic applications or fluctuating workloads, this feature will ensure your infrastructure scales automatically and efficiently. And that's it for the video.